This video will be condensation polymerization. So it's part 2 of macromolecules. So we learned that macromolecules, there are two forms of ways that it can be formed, either by addition polymerization, or the other way is condensation polymerization. So we've already gone through addition polymerization. As you go through this video, think about the differences between addition and condensation polymerization. Now, for condensation polymerization, once again, you do have monomers that come together and form bonds to form polymers. So, if you have two different types of monomers, they will bond together to form a long chain of a polymer in this fashion, AB. So there will be there'll be a pattern of one then the other, one then the other. And why are they able to bond in this way is because at the ends of each of the molecules of the monomers, they have a functional group that react and form the bonds. And when they react and they form the bonds, they get a long chain of polymer. But in the case of condensation polymerization, a small molecule is a byproduct. So where did we learn the term condensation polymerization? Remember, we learned before that esterification is a type of condensation reaction. And when esterification occurred, a carboxylic acid and an alcohol group bonded together with the elimination of a water molecule. So similarly, in condensation polymerization, the monomers combine and they eliminate a small molecule. And the small molecule doesn't always need to be water. It can be other molecules like hydrogen chloride. And there are two types of polymers, polyesters and polyamides. So again, polyester, possibly is there ester linkage involved? Likely, yes. The first condensation polymer we'll look at is polyamide. And a very famous synthetic polymer is nylon. And nylon is made from two monomers. And the first monomer is a dicarboxylic acid. Why is that the case? Because there's a carboxyl group at the end of the molecule at both ends. That's why it's called di, because there's two. What does this yellow box refers to? It just means a group of atoms, but we just represent it by a box. On the right, we have a diamine. Now, amine is new to us. It's a different type of functional group as well. And so this over here is an amine group. Once again, the blue box is a group of atoms. And it's a diamine because there's two of it, one at each end of the molecule. So what is amine? Amine can be thought of to be relatives of ammonia. So on the left, I have ammonia, and an amine is when one of the hydrogen is replaced by a hydrocarbon group. So maybe it'll be carbon, hydrogen, CH3, and HH. So this is like an amine group. Okay, and then a diamine is when both ends has an amine group. So how is nylon formed? Okay, so when you have all your monomers lined up and then you give it certain conditions, some bonds will break. And so in this case, the C single bond O bond breaks, as well as the NH bond breaks, and a bond is formed from the carbon atom of the dicarboxylic acid group to the nitrogen of the diamine group. And guess what? These atoms over here are eliminated. And yes, that is, they form the water molecule. So once again, this is a diagram and the water, and it shows you water is eliminated and this over here is your nylon polymer. So take note, for condensation polymerization, there will always be byproducts formed. So there are more than one product form, a polymer and a byproduct. So what is key here? In this case, you realize that there's a repeating unit. Okay, it's always A, B, and then repeated with A, B again. So over here, this C double bond group is like the A, and the amine group is a B. What is the structural formula of nylon? You take the repeat unit, put a square bracket, and N refers to the number of that repeat units. What is important and why is it called a polyamide? Because it's a unique name for the linkage that is formed between the monomers. And this linkage is called the amide linkage. Those of you who take biology is found in your proteins. Okay, so what is an amide linkage? Okay, it is a C double bond O NH linkage. Okay, you can represent it in the left way or the right way, both doesn't matter. So it's a polyamide because the polymer contains many amide linkages. So this is an example of a condensation polymer, and the name is nylon 6. So I'm showing you that actually it came from the monomer where CH2 was bonded to an amine group, and that is the diamine, and the other monomer is the carboxylic acid. Okay, so this is how you can derive the monomers from the polymer. So now there are no more boxes to represent the group of atoms. I actually show you actual atoms. Any idea why it's called nylon 6,6? You can pause and think, but the reason why it's not called nylon 6,6 has to do with the number of carbon atoms. One monomer has 6 carbon atoms, and the other one as well. This carbon has 4 plus 1 plus 1. So that's why it has 6 carbon atoms. So it's called nylon 6,6. Okay, that circle I'm showing you, that is the water that was eliminated during the condensation reaction. So nylon has many properties. Okay, it's strong yet light. So what is to make your sleeping bags, your ropes, those of you who do rock climbing and all that, fire, what's this now, parachute, and these jackets are commonly made of nylon because they have water resistant properties and they're very strong. In summary, the polyamide nylon is formed by a condensation reaction between diamine monomers and dicarboxylic acids, and it has a lot of amide linkages, and water is eliminated during the reaction. So let's go on to the other condensation polymer, polyester. And a very common polyester is terylene, and it's made from these monomers here. So what do they look like? This is a dicarboxylic acid. So, but once again, and on the other side we have a diol. Why is it called a diol? Because it's a di-alcohol, where this is a hydroxyl group. And how do you form terylene? They combine to form the polymer, and water is eliminated. So this is very similar to your esterification. The carbon oxygen bond breaks the oxygen hydrogen bond breaks of the diol, and the carbon atom of the dicarboxylic acid forms a bond with the oxygen of the diol. And yes, water is eliminated. Okay, and voila, familiar linkage. This is the ester linkage. So the repeat unit will be each of the monomers without the water molecules. The structural formula once again will be the repeat unit, okay, with the N. Okay, earlier I didn't mention about my dangling bond. Don't forget my dangling bond because it represents that there are other molecules that are attached to it to form a very long chain. And what else? Yes, and it's called a polyester because they are joined by many ester linkages, and I can represent it by the structural formula of, I just put COO. It is an ester linkage. Pterylene is also very strong and elastic in nature, and is used to make a lot of cloth, sleeping bags, and sails. An example of pterylene is known as PET, used to make your water bottles. So ignore the red lines. This is an example of a pterylene molecule, This is an example of a pterylene condensation polymer. So how do you know your monomers? I'll go back again. How do you know your monomers? You first have to see where the linkages are. That's where the bonds are formed. So I know that the ester linkage is here, ester linkage is here. So I know that this oxygen, so I know that the monomer comes from this group over here, and I just add a hydrogen to it, to the oxygen. So this will be my diol. Okay, in fact, I added hydrogen to the other side. Okay, both sides. Then for the dicarboxylic acid, you identify the other side, the other monomer that was linked to my C double bond O. And then on each side, you add an OH group. And there you go. You have the two monomers that were used to form pterylene. Okay, so this funny thing over here is actually a benzene molecule. You have no idea what is it. It's fine, but you just draw whatever you see. And then water was eliminated. In summary, polyester is formed by condensation between a diol and a dicarboxylic acid, and it has many ester linkages, and water is eliminated. So let's do checkpoint 2. I want to prepare nylon, and I am using these two monomers over here. Name the byproduct for this polymerization, and draw the structure of part of the polymer chain showing two repeat units. Now, interestingly, for here, I know that nylon needs to be made by a diamine and a dicarboxylic acid, but this is not a dicarboxylic acid. It's a chlorine group here, but I know that it's going to be nylon, so I know that this bond will still be broken, and this bond will still be broken, and the carbon will bond with the nitrogen of the diamine group. So what must be the byproduct? It must be HCl. Now HCl in water is a acid, but we can't assume that it's water, so the byproduct will be hydrogen chloride. Okay, then draw the structure of part of the polymer chain showing two repeat units. So I'm supposed to draw two repeat units. So let's do that. So you start with your the C double bond O, and you join it to the nitrogen of the diamine. Now the boxes, you can leave as boxes, doesn't matter whether it's colored or not. So this is one repeat unit. So we draw another repeat unit. And we're done. Okay, let's check our answers. This is the answers, exactly what I drew. Next. The following shows the structure of a polyamide. Draw the structure of the two monomers used to form the polyamide. So have a go. You can pause the video. And I will explain now. Always when you're doing this, identify the linkage. So in this case, the amide linkage is over here. So I know that a bond was formed over there between the nitrogen and carbon. And so if I were to draw my amine, diamine group, I'll draw the original that was there, and H, and H, and I'll add a hydrogen. That is my diamine. And on the other side, I'll just draw what it was originally, although I have no idea what is it. It's fine. And then what do I add to it? Yes, I add the OH group. And we're done. So these are the two monomers. Ta-da! Check your answers. And the last part of this whole module on polymers is about plastics and pollution. All these polymers are actually plastics, and we use them very commonly because they are so cheap and they have many properties that are desirable. But one terrible problem is that it causes pollution. Okay, please highlight they are non-biodegradable, which means that it cannot be decomposed naturally by bacteria. So if you dispose of plastics, they will remain in the environment for a long duration. And if you were to burn it, okay, it may produce poisonous gases, okay, because of what's inside them. And we know that if we don't dispose of it properly, we know the dangers that plastic poses to marine animals. And now there's this thing called microplastics that can go into your fishes and eventually come into our diet because we eat the fish. So you can watch this video, Plastic 101 by National Geographic. It will show you all the horrible destruction caused by plastics. So now to overcome the plastic pollution problem, we encourage reusing, reducing, and recycling. Okay, the next part of my slides is actually all enrichment. I just want to share with you that actually, although I only shared polymers that are synthetically produced, in nature there are many macromolecules that occur naturally, and a polyamide is your protein. Okay, and it has an amide linkage. Okay, so I won't elaborate, but yes, proteins are formed from your amino acids, and when the amino acids link together to form the long chain of your protein, it's actually a condensation reaction where your amide linkage is formed. Then next, fats are polyesters. Okay, it's actually made from glycerol with the OH group with 3 fatty acids. Sorry, this is a carboxylic acid group, and you will form your ester linkage. So a triglyceride actually contains your ester linkage. Oh, that's all. Thank you very much and hope you can do the worksheets.